Hey guys, Electric Doom here, and I guess this is gonna be the first vlog I ever do. You can call it a vlog, you can call it, anything. I'm considering this more like insight into who I am as a person and as an abridger and everything like that. So really, it's just sort of to give you guys that actually watch my shit more of a personal, in-depth experience of who I am. And I really wanted to start this out because since I've joined the Abridged community about 2 years ago, honestly, I don't hear too many people talk about how they got into it. I mean, granted, most people will probably just say like, "Oh, I was on YouTube and saw Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, and boom, I was hooked." Well, I'm sure everybody's story isn't like that. I'm sure a lot of people's stories are very similar to that, but mine's actually slightly different. And my Abridged story actually starts back in 2010, surprisingly enough. It started off when I was in basic training down in Fort Benning, Georgia, for me joining the army, and obviously it was a really rough thing I had to do. We'd be sitting there; it'd be very physically demanding, sometimes very mentally demanding, and at night, when we were all hanging out, we'd either talk about music or anything like that. But since most of the people I was there were roughly around the same age as me, like we all talked about things that we remember from childhood. So we talked about things like Power Rangers and Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z, surprisingly enough. Now, it got to the point where we were having a really in-depth conversation about Dragon Ball Z. And one of my platoon mates, his name was Joshua Johnson. He told me, "Hey, you know what? You should check out this thing on the internet when you get home. It's called Dragon Ball Z Abridged. It's really funny." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I was intrigued by what it was. And he had told me, he's like, "Well, what it is it's basically there's a group of people who will revoice all the characters and make it funny. Like, just make it funny." And I was like, huh. And I was like, I don't know, that really doesn't sound like it's going to transition over well. And then he told me the infamous, Vegeta, it's Chaozu, it's a Pokemon joke. And, like, I was like, okay, I can actually see where that's funny. And the worst part about it was I think I sat on that knowledge from November until sometime around November 2010 till sometime around May of 2011, actually. That's how long it took me to actually look that shit up. It'd been so long since I even remembered it. And I think I watched every single episode of Dragon Ball Z Abridged in one night. And I think, if memory serves me right, the episode was the episode with Ginyu and Goku switching bodies. I think that was up to the point where they were at, and obviously later on, that almost one whole year later, they'd finish the Frieza saga. But that's exactly how much I ended up watching. And at this point, I didn't know there was anything besides Dragon Ball Z. I mean, I didn't know about Little Karibo. I didn't know about Naruto Abridged or anything like that. It was just one of those things where, like, I just sort of sat back and loved DBZ Abridged for what it was. Never in my mind did I think that there's literally an abridged series for everything else. But in my head a few times I said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if somebody abridged this show or that show? Having thought of the idea that, clearly at this point in abridging, there's nothing that hasn't been done before. Don't ever say you found a new show that no one does yet, because chances are somebody's already done it. But that's the intro for me of how I got into it all. Now what made me become an abridger is another question altogether. It started off when I went to college for the first time after getting out of basic. I went to the University of New Hampshire, and I met the anime club there. And granted, my knowledge of anime literally was like DBZ, Pokemon, Naruto, Bleach, and whatever random shows on Netflix featured girls with big tits. So that's pretty much my whole abridged knowledge right then and there. Or not even, anime knowledge, not abridged knowledge. But I met the people in the club, and a lot of them were fans of, like, Dragon Ball Z Abridged and Little Karibo and a whole bunch of other abridgers that I didn't even know about at the time. So basically, we had all made an idea that, oh, we should all make a series together. And we kind of all decided on, like, oh, well, what can we do that's easy? And I forget who exactly first said FLCL, or Fooly Cooly. So Fooly Cooly Abridged became a thing. We wrote a script one and never did anything with it. That script still exists on my computer, never to see the light of day. But while I was doing that, my friend Manila, Manila, and I were working on another project, which was a Gurren Lagann one-shot. And basically what it came out to was, I played Simone, he played Kamina, we got, a random girl on the internet to play Yoko. And basically what would end up what it was like, okay, Kamina's insane. Simone thinks Kamina is insane. Kamina thinks that him and Simone are the same person, very Fight Club-esque, And that was that was the first thing I'd ever actually done. I edited that entire episode down, put it out. It was like 14 minutes long. And, if you go back on my channel now and try to find it, no, YouTube took that down like a year and a half ago. And I just now finally got all my copyright strikes gone. So that's gone, never ever see the light of day again. But that was the process. When I wasn't working on trying to do an episode 2 for that, the problem was Manila moved back to Connecticut and we would record with my microphone because we were just two guys living in the exact same place, or the area anyway. So what ended up happening was I had moved on to do another project solo. And I was thinking around, like, what am I going to do that's solo? And I came up with this concept of doing a ment, which obviously, if you don't know what a ment is, I can explain the difference, but I'd rather not. I'll save that for another video of what I think the difference is. So what show did I really want to do? And I was watching Death Note at the time and said, oh, how great of an idea would it be to have, have Light be extremely loud and obnoxious and very open about, oh, I am killing people in plain sight, and everybody just nobody gets it. He's just sitting there screaming like an idiot, I'm gonna kill somebody, with my book. And that was the whole concept of the entire show, was that idea. And I started writing a script, and I realized my editing wasn't good enough for me to do what I had to do with it. Because there was a whole lot of stuff that had to get done, and my editing wasn't good at the time. So I put it on the back burner thinking, oh, this is going to be the best Abridged series that I could ever physically make. Cut to May of 2013. I was at my house drinking on Netflix. I think I had a bottle of rum on me, downing an entire bottle of rum. And this show, Squid Girl, comes on. It was on Netflix. And I said, you know what? I am going to watch this show because somebody has told me in the past, I didn't remember who, somebody has told me that this show is good. And at the time, I had said, you know what it probably is, though? It's probably exactly like My Little Pony. Because I know it has puns, I know it's cutesy and adorable, it's made mostly for children. It's gonna be awful. But fuck it, I'm drunk, I'm gonna watch it. So I did. I watched it. And sometime around episode 3, I get this brilliant idea. And it's the script for episode 1. It's all in my head. I ran out to my laptop, which was in the kitchen at the time. I ran out to my laptop, wrote the entire script in about 10 minutes, which is the exact script verbatim that is in my first episode. And at the time I said, okay, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's a stupid idea, And I was talking to my brother Josh, who I dedicate all my videos to, Rip. I was talking to him about it, and he had said, well, the show has puns anyway. Why don't you just do a whole thing with nothing but puns? An episode where you just have nothing but puns. She speaks in puns, and then at the end, she has some sort of horrible, debilitating sickness or something like that. So I sat on that idea also, which became episode 0, which honestly, it wasn't supposed to be anything. It was going to be, here's nothing. This has nothing to do with anything. It's never going to become anything. And yet it did become something. So fish puns was obviously the first thing I did. And it left me say, okay, so if you watch that now, the editing isn't so good. But that is miles away from where I was editing originally. And if you keep looking at my progress throughout my episodes, I think my editing has gotten a lot better. And that's kind of good, my editing's gotten better, my writing's gotten a whole lot better. I pretty much said when I started, I have an awful sense of humor. I laugh at the worst things you can ever think of. I'm in a sense, I'm a very terrible person when it comes to comedy, because I literally, I don't believe in taboos. If it's funny, it's funny. That's how I'm able to write some of the horrible, horrible jokes I do, but make it work. Since episode 1 now to, episode 5 is in the works right now, editing, ever since I started this project, there's been so much that's come out of it. My editing has gotten so much better. I have things that I am so proud of that I was able to edit. I have scripts that I am so proud that I was able to get it done. And I have a cast of people that that are still willing to work with me, even though I write the most ridiculous things ever. I have the best cast of people I could have ever wanted for this whole show to work. I mean, granted, Squid Girl is not the most popular anime on planet Earth, and it never will be, because in a sense, it's really bad. It's really bad. And in a sense, my abridging is really bad. But in the same way that the show is really bad, it's really good. Where my show is really bad, it's really good at the same time, at least from my perspective. I mean, I'm proud of every episode I've made of The Call of Squid Girl since it came out. And I think as an artist and somebody that like actually is a content creator, yeah, I'm not making my own content. I'm just remixing and repackaging something that's already been done. You know, we've all been doing it for a long time. But I think that the thing is, with The Call of Squid Girl and what I do with it and everything else, I love it. And it's so, it blows my mind that, you know, this is still a thing that I want to work on, coming from the little series that I never wanted to do. You know, the little series that could not in a lot of ways. But you know, I'm gonna keep doing this as long as I feel like doing it until I move on to another project. You know, because unfortunately, I don't think the landscape of abridging is gonna change. I feel like there's the newer the artists or whatever you want to call them, the newest abridgers that come around. I think we're only getting better from here. I don't think we've really scratched the surface on what can truly be considered abridging at this point, because I think it's kind of endless, and it's all going to very well vary on what happens later on in the future with everything. But I'll say this right now. I want to give a big thanks to everybody that's helped me out with these episodes. You know, I love you all to death. Thank you for sticking with me on this project. And, you know, here's another thing. If you watch this video and you're like, okay, whatever, he's doing his own thing, maybe you should, you know, try not telling your own abridged story. Because I know mine's a little bit more interesting than most other people's. But, you know, hell, it might as well be a cool way to let people know how you got into this. And, you know, obviously if we all love doing it, you know. You know, so if you like this video, whatever, I don't care. If you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. But if you're an abridger out there and you watch this, tell your own abridged story. I mean, it'd be really interesting to hear how that all worked out for you and how it's worked out for me. I mean, you know, give it a shot. Anywho, guys, I'm Electric Doom, and this has been my abridged story.